$142,000. That's what the truck cost. Marcus paid for it in a single afternoon at a dealership that brought him an espresso while the paperwork printed. You were standing right there. You watched him not ask the price out loud, not once, because asking the price is a thing people do when the price is a question. For Marcus, in the fall of 2020, nothing was a question anymore. 4 years from now, he's going to call you. You'll assume it's about money. It won't be, not really. It'll be about a thing he doesn't have a word for yet. You won't have one either, not for a while. This is what watching someone go broke actually looks like. It's slower than you'd think. And it almost never looks like falling. Most of the time it looks like winning, right up until it doesn't. You're 29. You make $54,000 a year servicing commercial refrigeration units, the walk-in coolers behind grocery stores, the reach-ins at restaurants, the stuff nobody thinks about until it stops keeping food cold. Columbus, Ohio. You drive a 2011 Silverado with 191,000 miles and a passenger door that only opens if you lift it slightly while you pull. You've meant to fix it for 2 years. You never do. It still opens. Marcus is 31. You met him at 19, both of you swinging hammers for a framing crew that paid in cash on Fridays. You went one way, he went the other. By 2020, he owns a flipping operation. Buy the ugly house, fix it, sell it high. And the market that year is doing something that feels less like a market and more like a slot machine that only pays out. Every house he touches goes up before he's finished touching it. You meet every few months at the same diner off Sawmill Road. Same booth, the one by the window with the tear in the vinyl seat somebody patched with the wrong color tape. You've been sitting in that booth since you were both broke. That part matters later. Fall 2020. Marcus slides into the booth 20 minutes late because the truck needed a specific parking spot, one where he could see it through the window. He orders for both of you without looking at the menu. He tells you he cleared $400,000 last year. He doesn't say it to brag exactly. He says it the way you'd report the weather. Just information about a sky that keeps being blue. And here's the part you don't tell anyone. Sitting across from him in that booth, you feel it climb up your chest. That specific tightness. Not jealousy, or not only. Something closer to a math problem you keep getting wrong. He's 2 years older than you and lives in a different decade. You did the same work at 19. You made the same cash on the same Fridays. Somewhere the road forked and nobody showed you the sign. He picks up the check. He always picks up the check now. You let him, and you hate a little how easy it is to let him. You drive home in the Silverado with the heater that takes 4 minutes to warm up. And somewhere on Route 315, without deciding to, you open your banking app at a red light and you bump your automatic transfer from $200 a month to $260. $60. You don't know why you do it. It isn't a plan. It's almost the opposite of a plan. It's the only lever you have and you pull it because pulling something feels better than pulling nothing. The light turns green. You forget you did it by the time you're home. The gap between you and Marcus that night is enormous. Real, measurable, humiliating. It's also the last time the gap points in the direction everyone would assume. Spring 2021. The booth again. Marcus is bigger now, and he's carrying a folder, which is new. He spreads it out on the table between the coffee cups. 4 properties. He's holding 4 at once now instead of 1 at a time, because why sell one and wait when the bank hands you the money to hold all 4 and let them all climb together? He explains the whole thing and it sounds airtight. The rates are nothing. 2-point-something%. The money, he says, and he actually uses this word, the money is basically free. You borrow at nothing. The asset goes up 10%. You keep the spread. You do it again with more. He's not lying. In the spring of 2021, standing in that math, every word of it is true. Then he does the thing you'll think about for years. He offers to bring you in. Put in what you've got, he says. Ride alongside. Stop trading your Saturdays for other people's coolers. He means it. It's a real door and he's holding it open with a real hand. And you say no. You want to tell yourself later that you saw something. That you were wise, that you smelled the top. You didn't. The truth is smaller and less flattering than that. You said no because the whole thing scared you, because you didn't understand it well enough to sleep, and because moving your money required steps you were honestly too tired to take on a Tuesday. You said no out of fear and inertia, not insight. But that's the thing nobody tells you about staying out of a fire. It doesn't matter whether you stayed out because you were brave or because you were slow. The staying out is the whole benefit. Your reasons don't show up in the outcome. Only your position does. Marcus closes the folder. He's a little disappointed, a little relieved to have offered. He picks up the check. You let him. Your $260 a month keeps leaving on the first, into an index fund you never look at, doing nothing anyone at that table would have respected. Summer 2022. This is where it turns, though nobody in the booth knows it's turning. The rates move, not slowly. The thing that was 2-point-something is suddenly 6, then higher, and the whole machine Marcus built runs on the assumption that money stays cheap. One of his 4 houses won't sell. Then it just sits. A house that won't sell isn't a pause, it's a mouth. Property tax, insurance, the loan, the utilities to keep it showable. It eats every month whether anyone's living in it or not. Marcus isn't worried. You need to understand that because it's the most important part. He is genuinely, completely not worried. He calls it a blip. He says the word blip and he means it. He's seen the market dip before and come back and reward the people who held their nerve, so he holds his nerve, because holding his nerve is the exact thing that made him rich the first time. The truck still gleams in the parking spot by the window. He still picks up the check. From the outside, from where you're sitting, still feeling that old tightness, nothing has changed. He's still the one who made it. You're still the one who services the coolers behind the grocery store, where he buys the steaks he grills for people on Saturdays. Cheap money doesn't just fund the good decision. It funds the confidence to make 10 more just like it. That's the part that doesn't show up until the money stops being cheap. Winter 2023, the bleed. He's covering money with money now. Selling one house at a loss, he swears, is temporary to feed the two he's sure will come back. Pulling from a line of credit here to make a payment there. He's not gambling recklessly, that's what people always picture, and it's wrong. He's doing careful, intelligent, exhausting math every single day, moving the same shrinking pile from hand to hand fast enough that it looks, if you don't watch closely, like it's still growing. You watch closely, you've known him since you were both 19 and you can hear it. Not in what he says, in the pauses. He used to talk about deals like weather. Now there's a half second before certain numbers, a tiny hitch, the sound of a man checking whether he still believes himself. You want to help, you don't know how. What do you even say to the friend who's always been 2 decades ahead of you? You can't offer money, you have a fraction of what he moves in a bad afternoon. You can't offer advice, who are you, the cooler guy, to tell Marcus about money? So you do the only thing available, you keep showing up to the booth. You let him pick up the check, because taking that from him now would say something out loud that neither of you is ready to say. He looks rich the whole time. That's the cruelty of it. From the parking lot, from the neighbor's window, from anyone's Instagram, Marcus in the winter of 2023 is a wealthy man. The fall isn't visible yet. Falling this slowly never is. Fall 2024. The booth and the truck is gone. You notice before he says anything because you always look for the truck through the window out of 4 years of habit. There's a leased sedan in the spot now. Silver, anonymous, the kind of car that comes with the words, "for now." He catches you looking and he says it fast to get ahead of it. Restructuring, he says. Freed up some capital. Dana, his wife, thought the truck was silly anyway. Dana moved out in August. He tells you that part slower and not right away and only after the coffee's gone cold. Not because of one fight. Because of 2 years of watching a man she loved move the same shrinking pile from hand to hand and call it a blip. It wasn't the money that did it, he says. And then he stops because he knows that isn't quite true, and because it isn't quite false either, and there's no clean sentence that holds both. The house, his house, the one that was the proof of everything, is listed. He calls it downsizing. Everyone calls it downsizing. Downsizing is the word we hand people so they don't have to use the real one in a diner booth. For the first time in 14 years of friendship, when the check comes, he doesn't reach for it. There's a second where you both look at it, then you pick it up. It's $14. It is the loudest thing that has ever happened at that table. Spring 2025, he calls on a Tuesday. You assume it's for money. You've been assuming it for months, half bracing for it, half hoping for it. Because a loan you could actually do, a loan would be a thing with edges you could grab. You've already decided the number you can give without it hurting your family. You've got the answer ready before he asks. He doesn't ask. He's quiet on the phone for a while, and then he says the thing he doesn't have a word for. He says, "How do you do it?" And you don't understand, and so he tries again. The boring thing, he says. The same amount, the same day, the account you never look at, the truck you never replaced, the door you never fixed. He says he used to think it was fear. He used to think you stayed small because you were scared. And then he says the sentence that lands in the middle of your chest and stays there. I built something huge and I couldn't hold it. You built something small and it held you. You don't have a good answer. You tell him the true one, which is unglamorous and a little embarrassing. You tell him you never did anything impressive. You just automated one boring number when you were 29 and got too lazy to ever stop it. Even the year he offered you the door, even the years it looked pointless next to what he had. You never felt rich, not once. You still don't. Then that night, for the first time in longer than you can remember, you actually added up. The index fund you set up at a red light on Route 315. The $260 that became $300, that became $400, the year you got your journeyman's rating, all of it leaving on the first before you could feel it go. Line by line, on the back of a work order, because you don't trust yourself to do it in your head. $183,000. It isn't a number that would make Marcus's 2020 self look up from his espresso. It's a rounding error next to what he moved in a good week. But it's real in a way none of that was, because no bank has a claim on it, no market can call it back, and no Tuesday can take it. It sat there compounding while you serviced coolers and let a friend pick up checks and felt small in a booth. It grew the entire time you weren't watching. That was never the weakness of it. That was the whole design. Marcus built a number that could be taken. You built one that couldn't. Nobody in that booth, for 4 straight years, would have been able to tell which of you was actually rich. That's the part that should scare you, and it's the part that should save you. Here's the truth the whole thing was hiding. Marcus didn't go broke because he was reckless or stupid or greedy. He went broke because the world handed him a system that only worked in one kind of weather, and he mistook good weather for a permanent climate. The cheap money, the rising market, the free debt, none of it was a villain. It was worse than a villain. It was a very smart, very patient thing that made every bad decision feel like the obvious smart one, right up until the morning it didn't. And you didn't win because you saw further. You won because you never built anything the weather could knock down. Your boring number wasn't the timid version of his brave one. It was the only kind that survives. There's a booth off Sawmill Road with a tear in the vinyl patched in the wrong color tape. It's a Thursday, summer 2025. 2 guys are sitting in it who don't know you and never will. Late 20s, both of them. One is leaning back, loose, expansive, doing the math of his good year out loud the way you do when you want someone to feel the size of it with you. There's a truck in the spot by the window, new, and it caught the light when he parked it, so that the whole diner looked up for a second. The other one is quieter. He's nodding along. He picks at the edge of his napkin. He's happy for his friend, genuinely, and underneath the happy there's that old tightness climbing up his chest, the math problem he keeps getting wrong, the fork in a road nobody showed him the sign for. He doesn't know yet which one of them is going to be okay. Nobody knows that on the good years. Nobody ever does. Somewhere on his drive home tonight, at a red light he won't remember, he's going to open an app and move one small, boring number. Or he isn't. That's the whole thing. That's the only part that was ever up to him. The truck in the window catches the light again. It's beautiful. It doesn't mean anything yet. Give it 4 years.